Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to revision strategy number 2. Proofread carefully to see if you any words out. So, revision strategy review. What have we learned? Revision strategy 1, of course, is to use sentence patterns. And you can combine sentence patterns, those individual sentence patterns, to create a super sentence pattern. For example, after crying myself to sleep, I dreamt a dream. No longer will I allow unicorns to crush my hopes of a better future for my children. I will rise above. So notice, we have an introduction after crying myself to sleep. We have a semicolon separating two independent clauses, and we have a colon separating two independent clauses. All of these you can combine multiple sentence patterns. As long as you are following the pattern, the grammar will be solid. So, driving around, walking around, have you ever seen an error like this? A church offering a massage from God. I've heard it's heavenly. Or a reference letter referring to someone as horrible instead of honorable. Dr. Morrison referred to as Dr. Moron. This one's my favorite. A psychotherapist autocorrected to psycho, the rapist. Or a text saying, I love you, my previous wife, instead of my precious wife. All of these are actual errors, real mistakes that people have seen out and about. So revision strategy 2 is more or less to prevent errors like this, and it's called proofreading. Proofreading is going back and checking for errors, grammatical and otherwise. And we'll go over different type of errors that you can look for. But how to proofread? I'm going to give you 4 ideas, 4 ways to proofread better so you're not just reading and missing errors. So 4 steps. 1 is to read the word backwards. And what I mean by that is not starting with the S of backwards and go all the way through. No, but read it sentence by sentence starting at the end. Because if you isolate the sentences, if you take them out of the context, it's easier to see if mistakes exist. So reading the work backwards is a way to go and find some errors. You could read your work out loud. When you read it out loud, you hear things that may sound off, that need fixing. Or you're going to see errors or misspellings or wrong words that when you're reading silently, you know what you meant to put, but when you hear it out loud, it'll sound funny. Another way, proofread a printed version. It's really tricky sometimes to read something on a screen because you can get lost in it. If you have a printed version, you can have a pen and you can mark stuff up. It just tends to be easier that way. And the 4th way to proofread is give yourself some time. If you're writing an essay the night before, you're hurrying to get it done. You don't have time to go back and do a good proofreading job. And by time, I mean write your essay, take a day or 2 away from it, and then go back and look at it. You're going to find a ton of mistakes you didn't even know you had. So these are 4 kind of strategies to proofread. Become a better proofreader. Now, what should you look for while you proofread? Give you some different categories. Typos, grammar errors, sentence patterns, right? Such as this. Find those errors. Make sure you're using the right there, for instance. Make sure the sentence patterns are correct. Find them, fix them. What else to look for? Silly, simple errors. These are things that you know that should not be made. You got to capitalize I in proper nouns. Titles of books, short stories, song titles are all capitalized. People's names and specific locations are all capitalized. There's a little shift key that you hit when you push the letter. That makes it capital. Very simple, very easy. Make that happen. Period, punctuation at the end of sentences. Make sure that those exist. And apostrophes and contractions. Apostrophes represent missing letters, words that you leave out. Don't stands for do not. It's replacing the O. So make sure you have those apostrophes in there. Okay, what else do you look for? Page layout and formatting. Make sure you have paragraphs instead of power graphs. What is a power graph? That's when you have one giant block of text with no indentations, no extra spacing. It's just text on a page. It's very clunky, very difficult to read. Make sure you divide up into paragraphs, paragraphs that make sense, and indent new paragraphs. Don't double space and have extra space between. Just one enter and an indentation. Use that tab key. Other page layout and formatting issues, italics versus quotation marks. As a general rule, italics are for longer works and quotes are for shorter works. Let me show you a couple examples here. So longer works in italics, such as books, newspapers, movies or plays, TV shows, and CD titles, right? Those all go in italics. Quotes, however, are for those shorter works, such as an article, a newspaper article, or perhaps an essay, a chapter title, short stories, poems, and titles of songs. All of those go in quotes. Make sure you know the difference between italics, what goes in italics, and what goes in quotes. What else to look for when you proofread? Proper phrasing and spelling. Should have, would have, could have. It's not should have, would have, could have. They're abbreviated should have, would have, could have, which sounds like should of, but is actually should have. Make sure you're aware of those proper phrases. Also, text speak. Don't you dare use text speak. Use full words and proper punctuation. This is English class, for Pete's sake. And a lot, for instance. A lot is 2 words, believe it or not. And the way I like to remember this is whenever I see someone write a lot as just 1 word, I think of the allot monster, right? The allot monster is this creature. It's called an allot with 1 word. And if someone were to say something about this allot monster, like, I care about this a lot, I imagine someone hugging a beautiful allot. Or if someone were to say there was a lot of fire, I imagine an allot made of fire. Or a lot of mist, a lot of straw. All of these different creatures. Or, I'm sad a lot. A lot no understand, blah, 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 blah. I like this a lot more, right? Because he's darker in fur and that's more beautiful. A lot more dangerous, you're saying to something. That's very dangerous a lot. You have to be careful. So make sure that instead of talking about this a lot monster all the time, even though it's very amusing, you use 2 words when you reference a lot. Make sure you've done your note sheet. Ooh. And on the note sheet, you need to fix these errors. There are 5 errors in this sentence. Can you find them? Can you proofread those errors out? 1, I isn't capitalized. 2, don't needs an apostrophe. 3, to should be to. 4, the piano lesson should be capitalized. And 5, the piano lesson should be italicized instead of in quotes. Nice work. There are 2 errors in this one. Mike should have eaten breakfast. By 3rd period, he was starving. What are the errors here? There's 2 of them. Mike should have eaten breakfast, and then it should be starving instead of starring. So make sure you're aware of that. Make sure you do the assignment at the end of the note sheet. Peace.